Do you want to know what it's like to live in Fort Worth, Texas? In this video, I'm going to be sharing my top pros and cons of living in Fort Worth. I'm Keela McGraw, your favorite Dallas-Fort Worth realtor, and I've helped a lot of people relocate to the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. Since I've moved from Oklahoma to Fort Worth back in 1995, I have seen the city of Fort Worth evolve and grow in a number of different ways. And based on the calls that I've received from people interested in Fort Worth, they have noticed the growth also. So there is no denying Fort Worth has a lot to offer folks. It is the 12th largest city in the nation, and it has a population of about 900,000 people. And we know how important it is to gather facts before you consider relocating to an area. So let's start with what you're going to love about living in Fort Worth. One thing you're going to love about living in Fort Worth is the cost of living. The cost of living in Fort Worth compared to similarly sized cities across the nation, as well as in Texas, is lower than the national average. In fact, it's 4% below the national average. And with that, groceries are 1% lower than the national average. And with inflation being on the rise and one of those things that people are starting to realize and feel the pinch more, any kind of cost savings is definitely a bonus. Now, the average salary of a resident in Fort Worth is $73,000. And surprisingly, Fort Worth residents on average make more than the residents in the city of Dallas. Dallas's average salary is $63,000. So if you think about the cost of living being less and you're making more as far as your salary or income, it definitely is one of those things that draws a lot of people to the city of Fort Worth. So not only are you going to make more money possibly in Fort Worth than in Dallas, but also the housing cost is lower. The housing cost in Fort Worth is 5% lower than the national average. As of September of 2024, the median cost of a house in Fort Worth is $336,000. Now, if you compare that to the median cost in all of DFW, that is $360,000, and the median cost of a house in Dallas is $415,000. Now, $336,000 will get you about a 1,500 to 2,000 square foot home with 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. And Fort Worth does have a variety of home types. So you have townhomes as well as condos. You have single family detached homes as well as duplexes. So there is a wide variety to choose from when it comes to the type of housing that is available. Fort Worth home prices typically range from about $200,000 all the way up into the millions. So all price points can be considered when looking at housing in Fort Worth. And one of the good things about living in Fort Worth is that you still have some new construction options when it comes to housing. So with more income, more affordable housing, you definitely can have more options. And with that new construction option, which a lot of people reach out to me about new construction options in Fort Worth, you do have that as a possibility. Another great thing about living in Fort Worth are the job opportunities. We get calls every day about people like you who want to move to Fort Worth, and one of the reasons that they call or that they're interested in Fort Worth is because of the job opportunities. And honestly, the data does back it up. Economists are saying that even though the layoffs have ticked up just a little bit, the job market is still very strong in Fort Worth. Some of Fort Worth's top job sectors are healthcare, transportation and warehousing, government, retail trade, manufacturing, hospitality, and tech. So regardless of your area of expertise, Fort Worth should have something for you in its job market. Plus, there's plenty of job fairs that are being advertised just year round. And so really depending on your industry, it should really not be that difficult to find a job in Fort Worth. Another positive thing about living in Fort Worth is that there is plenty to do. It really is going to be hard for you to be bored living in Fort Worth because there are constantly different festivals or events. You have plenty of museums to choose from, parks. In fact, the city maintains over 300 parks throughout the city, but they also have recreational centers, aquatic centers, and a whole lot more just for families and individuals to enjoy. A lot of annual events that you can enjoy every year in Fort Worth include the Fort Worth Stock Show and Rodeo, the Main Street Fort Worth Arts Festival, Mayfest, the Fort Worth Opera Festival, the Fort Worth Music Festival, and the Lone Star International Film Festival. And that's really just scratching the surface of some of the events that you can experience in Fort Worth. And if you like museums, Fort Worth has 6 museums, including the Fort Worth Museum of Science and History. Fort Worth also has a phenomenal zoo. If you haven't been to the Fort Worth Zoo, definitely go there during your visit. It was actually named one of the best zoos in the country by the U.S. News and World Report. And if you live in Fort Worth, you're going to go to the zoo. And if you don't go, your child will probably experience going to the zoo with their school. So it is definitely one of the attractions that a lot of individuals want to experience, and families, honestly. The Fort Worth Stockyard is also another main attraction that people like to experience while living in Fort Worth. The Fort Worth herd is the world's only twice daily longhorn cattle drive, and it's held every day at 11:30 a.m. and 4 p.m. in the Fort Worth Stockyards. There's plenty of fun as far as events and just amazing restaurants in the stockyards. There's also a hotel, so you can really just kind of live and experience all that Fort Worth Stockyard area has to offer. There's also tons of live music venues in Fort Worth. And if you like the big venues, they have that as an option, as well as smaller ones. One of the larger venues in Fort Worth as far as having events and concerts is the Dickies Arena, and it opened in 2019 and it houses about 14,000 people. So you can definitely experience Dickies Arena. There are different rodeos and events that happen there, as well as concerts. Other things that you need to know about living in Fort Worth or that are fun to experience would be the Texas Motor Speedway. It's up in the North Fort Worth area, but you also have Panther Island Pavilion, which is just off of the Trinity River. And there are a variety of public events that happen there, including concerts, there are festivals. There's just a variety of different things that you can experience on Panther Island. Now, living in any city, shopping is just a part of your day-to-day life, and Fort Worth definitely does not disappoint when it comes to shopping. So like any city, you do have your malls and things like that. But as far as your day-to-day, probably shopping, you do have your Aldis, your Targets, or Walmarts. And they are honestly sprinkled throughout the city. So you don't have to worry about living on the north side and having to travel way down south to get to those conveniences. Every part of the city kind of has their own little shopping areas. For some of the higher end shopping that you may want to experience, you have the Shops at Clear Fork. And the Shops at Clear Fork, they feature upscale and mainstream retail stores. So you'll get to experience some of the luxury boutiques like Burberry, Tiffany & Co., Gucci, and Louis Vuitton. But there's also entertainment in the form of there's an AMC movie theater and Pinstripes, which is a venue that has bowling. They have some great food there and bocce ball. And there's also University Village, which is just down the road from Texas Christian University. Another great thing about living in Fort Worth, the people here are just super friendly. I remember coming to visit Texas Christian University when I was in high school, and I just remember telling my parents, like, the people down there are just super friendly. And that is just one of the things that I love about living down here, and Fort Worth does not disappoint. It definitely carries that Southern charm and hospitality. And speaking of colleges, another great pro of living in Fort Worth is that you have access to a variety of higher education institutions. So you do have Texas Christian University as well as Texas Wesleyan University, but there's also some community colleges like Tarrant County Community College, as well as some satellite campuses that are housed in Fort Worth, such as Texas A&M University. So higher education options are always a plus when you're considering somewhere to live. So let's talk about some of the not so great things about living in Fort Worth. One thing that I hear a lot about or get questions about is the climate or the weather here in the Fort Worth area. And it does get really hot in the summer. In fact, you'll probably experience the highest temperatures in July and August, but you'll also experience some higher temperatures in September and even bleeds into October. In the summers, our temperatures on the high end are in the mid-90s on average. And on average, we experience at least about 2,000+ degree days. In 2022, there were 4,700 degree plus days. And in 2023, there were 55 100 degree plus days. So yes, we do have some really brutal summers and some more milder summers. It just kind of depends on how the weather is swinging that year. Another surprising thing that people don't realize is even in this North Texas area, we do experience quite a bit of humidity. Now, it's not like being on the Gulf or down in Houston, but the humidity averages are pretty high in the summer, or at least higher than most people think. Another question that we get a lot of is, do we experience tornadoes? And yes, there are your occasional tornadoes. We are on the southern tip of Tornado Alley, so yes, you will experience tornadoes possibly. Now, I've lived here for quite a few years. Have I actually been in a tornado? No, but they do happen occasionally here in Fort Worth. More so than tornadoes, you will experience high winds and some hail. In the spring, we do have severe thunderstorms, and with those severe thunderstorms, they usually bring hail and high winds. And of course, all of this does affect your housing possibly. Is it something that happens every single year? No. But you do want to make sure that you stay on top of getting your roof assessed and things like that to make sure that your roof is insurable. But we do experience higher winds and hail from time to time. Another concerning thing that people share about living in Fort Worth is the crime. According to crimegrade.org, Fort Worth earned an overall crime and safety rating of a C-. Now, that does mean that the rate of crime is slightly higher than the average U.S. city. Some encouraging news is that Fort Worth had fewer violent crimes than more populous cities in 2022. And that's according to the FBI's National Incident-Based Reporting System. So of course, like all cities, you may have some parts of the city that are more impacted by crime than others. Definitely do your due diligence and make sure that you look at crime heat maps and just do your homework before selecting a neighborhood. When clients reach out to us about relocating to Fort Worth, schools is usually one of those topics that they want to know more about. And the Fort Worth Independent School District has an overall rating of a C, 70 out of 100 as of 2024. In 2023, they had an overall rating of a D, 63 out of 100. So they have made some improvements. But with these lower accountability ratings, Fort Worth Independent School District has been in the news. Recently, Fort Worth's Mayor Maddie Parker, she sent a letter to the Fort Worth Independent School District's board, and she called the district's rating unacceptable. Shortly after that, the Fort Worth Independent School District superintendent resigned, and she was only with the district for about 2 years. So the district is going through some changes. They are trending in the right direction, but just like with anything, it's going to take time. A concerning thing that is going on in Fort Worth is the population increase or the growth that Fort Worth is experiencing. According to the Texas Demographic Center, Fort Worth's population grew more than any other Texas city between January 2020 and January 2023. The Texas Demographic Center stated that Fort Worth gained 48,542 residents over the last 3 years. So with that growth, of course, you're going to experience more congestion, more traffic, and more demand for housing. Experts are saying that Fort Worth's booming population is good news as long as the city can grow jobs that keep all those new residents employed within the city's limits. And I do believe that Fort Worth will rise to this occasion of population growth and make those plans to make sure that everyone is accommodated and comfortable. And we can't talk about population growth without talking about the increasing amount of vehicles that we are seeing on the roads in Fort Worth. So traffic is one of those things that has grown into more of a con or a problem in Fort Worth. And it really does depend on what time of the day that you're traveling on the roads and which roads you're traveling on. One highway that is notorious for being backed up or constantly having traffic is Interstate 35W, which if you're going north of downtown and going towards Denton, you're going to experience some congestion. It's just part of what's going on with that particular highway. Now with that, you do have express lanes and toll roads that you can utilize, but honestly, that comes at a price. And so you would want to get a toll tag, but just know that every time you travel on those roads, you are racking up those bills as far as having that toll tag. Have questions about relocating to Fort Worth or anywhere in the area? Give me a call, text, or email, and I'll see you in the next video.